Good afternoon. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We are now convening our public session meetings, starting with the Committee on Finance, which will be chaired by Commissioner Richard Bagger. We will conclude the public portion of today's meeting with the public board meeting. Today's public meetings are also being broadcast live on the Port Authority's website for those interested in viewing today's proceedings via the Internet. Commissioner Bagger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's meeting of the Committee on Finance is being held in public session. The committee met earlier today in executive session to discuss matters relating to the negotiation of contracts. At this point, I'd ask the board secretary to advise those present of the composition of the committee and confirm for us that we have no recusals because we're not taking action.
Thank you. The committee is comprised of yourself as chair, Commissioner Eve as vice chair, and Commissioners Horwitz, McCabe, and Pacino as members. All committee members are present at today's meeting, and as you noted, there are no recusals.
Great, thank you. Following the close of each calendar quarter, we report to the public on the operational and financial performance of the Port Authority through a presentation by our Chief Financial Officer at a board meeting, and the information is then posted the same day on the Port Authority website. So I'm pleased to introduce our Chief Financial Officer, Libby McCarthy, to present the 2018 first quarter results.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Commissioners. So I will be presenting the unaudited financial results for the 3 months ended March 31st as compared to the same period for the prior year, and I'm happy to report that those financial results were quite strong. This is our normal disclosure. The unaudited condensed financial information is best understood when read in connection with our audited financial statements and their appended notes, which are posted on our website in the corporate information section, which is also where these results will be posted following this meeting. From a perspective of the revenues, first quarter revenues were of $1.3 billion, increased $34 million over the same period in 2017. Rental revenues increased $19 million, primarily due to increased percentage rentals and cargo facility charges at our marine terminals due to a 7.5% increase in our container activity, and increased fixed rentals at the World Trade Center site due to higher occupancy as well as scheduled rent increases for our existing tenants. Aviation fees, which provide for the recovery of certain capital investments and operating expenses, increased $17 million period over period, primarily due to cost recovery of additional capital investments in our aviation facilities. Toll and fare revenues remained relatively flat as compared to the first quarter of 2017, despite the less favorable weather this year versus last. If I move on, then the only area where we had some lower revenues was, you'll see on this chart, was in the area of parking and other fee revenues, and that's where we believe we had some impact of that harsh winter weather which impeded travel in the period. This slide here shows you our activity over the periods. You can see that there's modest growth across all of our segments despite that inclement weather, but we also did experience exceptional growth at our ports, which had that 7.5% increase in container activities. That's both due to strong demand for imported goods, good, strong economy, and it was all facilitated by the completion of the Bayonne Bridge Navigational Clearance Program in 2017. You can see here, moving forward then to our operating expenses. Operating expenses of $758 million for the period increased $23 million versus the same quarter in 2017. Employee compensation expense increased $12 million, primarily due to increased headcount and wages, including additional police officers, and increased snow and ice removal activities at our port facilities comparatively period to period. Utility consumption increased $6 million, primarily at our aviation and World Trade Center facilities, and that is a result of the colder winter weather this year. And then contract services increased 9 million, primarily related to security guard services here at the World Trade Center site as more assets are operational. So we have increased scope, and we have just scheduled billing rate changes in our contracts. So overall, some other financial results that then lead to our final results. We have realized financial income of $15 million on our investment portfolio, which is comprised primarily of Treasury securities. That's an increase of $5 million over the period, and we earned an average rate of return of 1.3%, which is up from our earnings rate in the prior year, just as interest rates and the Fed has been moving interest rates up. Net interest expense also increased approximately $2 million as a result of higher overall outstanding debt obligations, offset in part by an increased amount of interest that's charged to projects in construction, as well as realization of debt service savings as a result of doing some refundings in the prior period. Grants and contributions in aid of construction increased $3 million, primarily due to the increased FEMA and FTA grant monies for Sandy-related costs. This slide shows you the impact of all of these things I've been discussing, which brings us to an overall increase in our net position of $142 million for the period, which is $10 million higher than the change in net position that we had in the first quarter of 2017. These strong revenue growth and controlled expense growth allows the Port Authority to deliver a positive cash flow position, and this can be seen here, and strong liquidity across our facilities. And then we utilize that cash flow to invest in our facilities. So we had $601 million of capital investment across our facilities in the first quarter. You can see that by this slide that much of that investment was targeted toward our tunnels, bridges, and terminals, as well as our aviation facilities, which is consistent with the allocation of capital investment as set forth in our 2017 through 2026 capital plan. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board? Yes, Vice Chairman Linford.
You know I ask you this question because it's a positive answer that I expect. Could you tell us now cumulatively what your net present savings has been in interest to the authority since you have been keeping score?
With refunding we completed yesterday, we're at $1,061 million in net present value savings.
Very good. I want to commend you and your staff for reaching the $1 billion mark.
Thank you. It's a team effort, and we're happy to do it. So, thank you.
Congratulations. Anything further? If not, thank you for the excellent report, and on behalf of the board, I'd like to recognize and congratulate all the employees of the Port Authority for the outstanding operational and financial performance for the first quarter. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our meeting.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.